Greetings, everyone. Coming to you live from Central New Jersey. I hope you're all somewhere warm by now, or at least somewhere cozy, or on your way to somewhere warm. Okay, so I wanted to make this video to just recap some of the main ideas in Sartre's chapter, Bad Faith, from his book, Being in Nothingness. And so this video will be handy for you to review if you have time now or during break, but especially right before we resume class in a week and a half or so, right before we come back. This will be handy for you to review the main concepts. Basically, you need to understand what bad faith is, or how the examples that Sartre gives us, especially of the woman on the date and the waiter in the cafe, what they're supposed to show, what they're supposed to be examples of, okay? So they're examples of bad faith. In order to understand what Sartre means by bad faith, we have to understand his theory of consciousness, okay? I just became acutely aware of how I'm like sitting in front of this wall of diplomas, which lets you know that I'm very important. Also, you can see my autographed Villanova 2016 championship basketball photo, so go Nova. Okay, so I got my notes here. Sartre's theory of consciousness. You'll see a couple terms in Sartre, all right? You'll see him talk about being in itself and being for itself. Being in itself is just the kind of being, the kind of existence of everyday material things. Things just are what they are, okay? Being for itself, that's the kind of reality, that's the kind of metaphysical status of consciousness. Consciousness isn't a thing, okay? These are things. Look, I got books. I got this book stand. Okay. They're things. They are beings in themselves. They're nothing other than what they are. Consciousness is utterly unique because it's not a thing. Consciousness is a kind of movement. Consciousness is a kind of process. Okay. So consciousness is being for itself. And another key word here, consciousness is transcendence. Okay, so what does that mean? Consciousness is transcendence. Remember, back in the previous class, we talked about, for Sartre, he says consciousness introduces nothingness into the world. Okay, what he means by that is the world, just things as they are what they are. Okay, consciousness isn't a thing. Consciousness is always going beyond itself. Consciousness is always transcending itself. Okay. So when physical things appear to you, when the material world shows up to you, right, it always shows up from a certain perspective, right? That's a function of consciousness, okay? Consciousness is always of something other than itself. That's what he means by consciousness is transcendence. Okay, so yes, consciousness is annihilation. Consciousness is a negation. It's a negative movement. It's always being beyond something, right? So here's a book, right? The book is physically present to me, right? The perceptual experience of the book, right? There's the thing in itself, and there's my consciousness of the thing, okay? But don't think of my conscious experience as another thing that's related to the book. My consciousness experience is just always being beyond the book, as being at a distance from the book. Okay, not a physical distance, just having a perspective on something is to be beyond it. All right, so consciousness is always of something other than itself. Consciousness is always a movement away from what it is not. Consciousness isn't another thing. It's the activity or the process of negation or being other than or transcending what is. Okay, so again, this will become more clear as we try to apply it to examples. All right, so let's understand the two key terms for Sartrean bad faith, okay? They're facticity and transcendence, all right? Now, these key terms are on a handout that I posted online. You'll see Sartre extra materials on Blackboard, and I emailed this to all of you. So you'll see definitions of facticity and transcendence on that handout. Sartre is kind of like Descartes, kind of Cartesian here. He says, look, human reality consists of this dualism, this duality. Facticity and transcendence. You're being in itself and being for itself. Okay? So what is facticity? Facticity is the set of inescapable facts that define who you are, what you are. Okay? So most importantly, perhaps, is you're a body. Sartre doesn't say you have a body. That's Descartes. Okay? And Descartes doesn't think you are your body, right? For Descartes, you are a conscious mind or a soul, and you have a body. But for Sartre, you are a body, okay? And that's what he would characterize as your facticity, okay? So human reality, the human condition, the human situation, consists of facticity and transcendence. Your facticity is the inescapable set of facts that you are, that define you, that determine you, okay? So your body, but also the past and the social, historical situation that you've inherited, okay? So you were born into a certain family that speaks a certain language. You were born in the late 20th century in America with a certain government, in a certain socioeconomic situation, a certain race, a certain gender, okay? And all of those things mean something. All of those things determine what's possible in your life, okay? And yeah, you have, like I always say, I have this body, and dunking a basketball is not in the cards for me. Okay, that's part of my facticity. That's part of me, and the possibilities for me, my horizon of possibilities, is determined by my facticity, by the set of facts that make my life the way it is that I can't escape. Okay, my gender, my size, all those facts about my body, but also the time in history that I was born, right? These are all just facts that I had no power over to choose, okay? That's your facticity. And you can't deny that. It sets constraints on your life and what you can do, okay? But is that all that you are? Are you nothing but this set of facts? No. And here's consciousness, right? Consciousness is always transcending. Consciousness is always negating and going beyond what it is, because consciousness is always what it's not. Consciousness is always transcending something. What is consciousness always transcending? Facticity, okay? So you're never just what you are. You're always more than that, okay? Hence Sartre's kind of paradoxical sounding, but it makes sense when you think about it, slogan, what am I? I am what I'm not, and I'm not what I am. Okay, so when he says I'm not what I am, that's saying, look, I'm a white male in America, born to educated liberal parents, and I have this set of circumstances. This is the hand I was dealt. That's what I am. Okay, but start saying, but just in virtue of being conscious, just being conscious means you're never just that set of facts. You're more than that, just in your ability to have a perspective on it, right? So I can interpret that set of facts as meaning something or not meaning something. I can say, well, I know, I'm a male, but I want to become a nurse. And, oh, men don't become nurses. Like, no, that would be letting the set of facts about myself define what's possible for me. But consciousness always transcends my facticity, okay? So I can take a perspective on my situation, my body, my past, my history. I can take a perspective on it. I can interpret it as meaning something, right? I can deny it as not meaning. Oh, my father, was a carpenter. My grandfather was a carpenter, and his father was a carpenter. So I guess I have to become a carpenter. No, notice, just in accepting it, oh, I have to become a carpenter, that's a function of my conscious perspective on my situation, accepting it, okay? I could reject it. I could say, no, I'm going to strike my own path, and I'm going to become something else. That's because I'm not just what I am, right? I'm always somehow beyond what I am. I'm always somehow moving towards what is not, right? And that's a function of consciousness. So consciousness is transcendence, and just is this ability, not even an ability, just a state of your being, just your reality, the human reality, is to be this set of facts, this body with this history, with this family, but to always be more than that set of facts, to always have a perspective on those facts, to accept those facts, to deny those facts, to interpret those facts as meaning something, right? So that's your consciousness that always transcends where it is, okay? So, that's the example I think I gave, maybe not in all the sections, was imagine being enslaved or in prison, okay? That would be a very burdensome facticity, right? That would be the external world, your situation, putting hard constraints on what's possible for you, okay? You are physically constrained, like if you try to flee, you'll be shot, or you're literally physically constrained in a cell, okay? That would be like, those are the facts. That's what the world is, that's the way the world is, and that determines and constrains what's possible for you. But you always have this inescapable freedom because you're always more than just those facts, just in virtue of being conscious, right? So the Malcolm X biopic with Denzel Washington, with Denzel Washington, is a good example of this because he's in his prison cell and he's obviously constrained and he's unfree, right? He's enslaved or imprisoned, right? But he's still free in his mind to think about his life, to think about his situation. And he sees his prison sentence as an opportunity to meditate and reflect and educate himself and change himself, right? You could easily see it going the other way. Being imprisoned, you could become utterly depressed and despondent and full of despair and resign yourself. Oh, I'm just going to die here, right? But just in you thinking of your situation that way, that still shows that consciousness is radically free. Consciousness is always beyond its situation. Even if you're resigning yourself to dying in prison, that's still a choice you're making, right? That is a function of consciousness, okay? So what is human reality, human condition? A set of facts, your facticity, but then being conscious, which is always a transcendence, a being beyond of your facticity, okay? So I'm going to pause it here because I think YouTube has a 15-minute limit on uploads. So we just laid out the theory of consciousness, the theory of human reality, the human condition, as you are a body, but you're also something else, consciousness, okay? You are a set of facts. You're determined by a set of facts that you inherit without any choice, right? Your facticity. But you always are more than that set of facts because you, in virtue of your consciousness, have a perspective on that set of facts. You transcend that facticity, okay? So the human condition is these two inescapable poles of facticity and transcendence. You are both of them at the same time.